everybody. It's Mr. Gray here. Thanks again for another great week of school. Updates-wise this week, it's going to look kind of similar to last week. I had to unexpectedly miss a couple of days of school to deal with some things at home. And so a lot of the stuff just got pushed back a few days. And so if this sounds and the updates look a lot like they did last week, that's the reason. And so we were going to get started on some stuff this week, and it just kind of got pushed back a little bit. So as far as announcements go, next week, October 25th through 29th, is Red Ribbon Week, and there will be kind of some things that the school is doing or thinking about every day that week, and they will send out an email about that, and of course, I will try to pass that along as well. And then just a final reminder, don't forget to sign up for PTA. Even if you haven't, you can sign up without paying. You can just kind of join the email list and get to know some of the information that PTA is sending out, which is really helpful throughout the year. As far as academics go, in Reader's Workshop, we're going to get started on nonfiction. Finally, not only was I out one day this week, but on our library day, our librarian was out at the same time. So we didn't even get to go to library to check out nonfiction texts. So we'll do that on Tuesday and kind of get the ball rolling on our nonfiction unit. And so we're going to start out by kind of examining how to read nonfiction text because it's different than fiction. And so we're going to talk about, what kind of text is this? What is this mostly going to be about? And kind of look at the structure and the clues that nonfiction texts have to tell me what I'm supposed to learn. And practice being fascinated and interested in topics to kind of get the most information out of those. So we're going to start with that, and then we'll continue. And both that and the writing we're doing will support each other. So in writing, we kind of already just started information writing. And so the kids are brainstorming and putting together some ideas for what they could write about and how they could organize it. But next week, we're going to get into the actual writing process and the different structures or features that you can use in information writing. So we'll talk about boxes and bullets and pros and cons and just different things like that, different ways that you can set up your writing to teach about something. So the kids are thinking about all different things they can teach about, things that they're experts about, and that's how we'll start information writing next week. In math, we're getting into multiplication facts finally. So at the end of this week and the beginning of next week, we're getting into our first little section of practice. We're going to start with just zeros and ones. So something times 0 is going to be 0. And then a really important concept that leads into in adding and subtracting fractions, making a common denominator, and also there's some measurement ideas that they will get to in here for later, is the idea of something times 1 equals 1. That becomes a really important topic later, and so it seems kind of innocuous and easy, but having kind of a deep understanding of something times 1 is whatever the thing, it doesn't equal 1, sorry, like a number, n times 1 equals n, that is a really important topic. And so we're starting with zeros and ones, and then next week we're going to get into our first math facts goal, which is going to be tens and fives. And those are very closely related. Times 10 is very much like times 1. And so that is something that is going to be what we're going to start with to start off kind of easy. And then we'll get into 2s and 4s, which also are on the easier side. And then we'll get into some of the harder facts then. As promised from before, I have some materials or resources for you at home. I thought I was going to send it out this week, but then we got pushed back, so I'll send it out next week. And they're going to have to do with math fact practice, like how you can do that at home with your students. And yes, if what you're thinking about flashcards, it's absolutely a great way to do it. And so I have a couple other resources for you also, so I'll try to send those out. But ultimately, we're going to try to have a way where I can communicate with parents what I'm seeing in terms of math facts, and then maybe what needs to be practiced. And so we're trying to balance this idea of fluency with math facts, meaning I can answer the questions really fast, with this kind of understanding of what that means. We want both of those to develop, but our focus over the next few weeks is going to be the fact fluency, that I can actually do 3 times 7 equals 21, and I just kind of know it because I practiced it. But I also need to understand what that means, and then past that, I'm going to work on division. I need to also recognize the connection between 3 times 7 equals 21, and also 21 divided by 3 equals 7. So we're going to start for a few weeks with multiplication, we'll move into division, and then that communication piece where I'm going to share what I'm seeing with your student and their math facts will come into more clarity as soon as we can. So that's the deal with math, and of course you can ask any questions about that anytime. In social studies, we're continuing studying American Indians of California. We're going to get into kind of what daily life was like for American Indians of California and pieces of culture for those groups. And so that's what's happening for the next probably like week or two, and then we'll move on from that to the next chapter, and I'll get to that at that point. And then in science for the next week or so, we're going to talk about motion and forces, how things move, pushing and pulling, gravity, things like that. So that'll be a little bit of fun. We went out yesterday and we're observing students playing on the playground and trying to figure out what are the push and pulls that are happening out on the playground. And so we'll continue that kind of thinking as we study a little bit more about force and motion. All right, that's it for me. Of course, you can let me know about any questions about what's coming up. We're getting close to the end of the first trimester. I think we have 3 more weeks, which is amazing because we're already through almost a third of school this year. So as always, thank you guys so much for all your support, and we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.